Welcome to the Softools IoT Suite. Over the next few minutes, we'll provide some background information on the underlying Softools platform. We will show two simple case stories from the consumer and corporate environments, and we'll demonstrate the IoT solution in action. First, some background information on Softools. Softools is a web application platform that contains many standard features out of the box. The ability to build apps with zero code, executive dashboards, business process applications both off the shelf and configurable, a great user experience operating anywhere, anytime on any device, the ability to add workflow automation to drive activities within the organization, and all on a platform that's hosted in a secure and scalable cloud environment. We operate in all parts of the world, in all languages, all time zones. We operate in all sectors and across all parts of the corporate value chain, providing both off-the-shelf solutions as well as the ability for clients to build their own applications. Applications can be deployed rapidly, typically within less than a day, and over the last 12 months we've deployed over 1,000 applications in both standalone and integrated formats, linking into client legacy systems or alternatively fitting in with emerging IoT solutions. We work with many of the world's largest and best known organizations, but we also work with many startup and high growth businesses. Organizations that are looking to implement solutions quickly and with an environment where data security is a given. So why does the Softools stand out from the crowd? Well, firstly, many of the standard items on the left of the screen here are now basic expectations. If you don't meet these standards, then you won't even be considered by public sector and corporate clients. So Softools not only meets these standards, but we stand out by implementing the 6 factors on the right-hand side of the screen. Firstly, Softools allows multiple applications to run on a single platform. This enables single sign-on and guarantees a single common user navigation and experience. But it also allows data to be transferred from one application to another seamlessly. Most applications are built to reflect industry best practice, either by Softools' technical team or working with some of the world's leading consulting organizations. The zero-code application build environment allows us to configure applications quickly and without the need for coding, which means they're stable and scalable out of the box. All solutions will run on any device, ranging from a PC through to tablets and smartphones. And the underlying data platform, Microsoft Azure, is the most secure and scalable on the planet. But finally, from a personal perspective, it puts you as the operational director or the operational manager back in control. IoT-enabled machines, or IoT devices, now make data available real time. This data can now feed into Softools applications, providing insight and providing executive visibility and control to enable more effective and more speedy decision making. Over the last couple of years, we've seen a proliferation in the number and type of devices used by companies in order to track data real time. This essentially has now become a commodity. So getting hold of the data, storing the data, making it available is no longer a critical issue, and it's no longer expensive. So the real challenge is now is, so what? What do we do with that data? How do we feed it into the key decision makers up and down the business? And that's where Softools comes in. On the Softools platform, we follow a 4-step process when building IoT-enabled solutions. Step 1 is to understand the business case. It's about business outcomes, it's about the business process, and what apps will support the process, and in turn, what data and what devices will feed the information necessary directly into the applications. So step 1 is design. Step 2, develop. Then uses the Softools App Studio, where we can code applications without the need for IT programming. Simple or complex applications will take information from the data sources and feed it through to the necessary people up and down the business. Number 3 is then to implement these IoT solutions and applications within the business. And this is all about integration. Integration using technology such as wireless, Bluetooth, NFC. Step 4 is then about enabling the solution right the way across the extended enterprise. Our preferred technology partner for this is Microsoft Azure, working closely with the Microsoft IoT Hub. The first case study we're presenting here is based on consumers. On the left-hand side, we see the emergence of advanced devices, such as an accelerometer that will fit on the end of a tennis racket, a fitness band that will be used to track the health and performance of an individual player. And finally, a smartphone where users can take video of each other, put that up to the internet in order for the coach to provide feedback. Now, all of this data will either come directly into the Softools platform or via the Microsoft IoT Hub. But once in Softools, we can then use this data in combination or in isolation to then feed into specific applications, such as updating a player's profile, updating a player's health and performance on their monitor. It can feed into lesson plans in terms of where they go next, and it can also feed into the coach. So the coach can therefore provide remote coaching. But whatever the device is and whatever the applications, this advanced technology in terms of devices and zero-code web apps allow us to provide a very different experience both for the coach and the club, but also for the player. The second case study is for the corporate environment. On the left-hand side here, we see a typical manufacturing line. In this case, it's an example of a bottling operation. It may have been created many years ago where each of the machines is now fitted with an advanced device for monitoring and tracking performance. Alternatively, a more modern facility would already have machines which are already internet enabled. In either case, what we don't need are individual apps or individual devices or machines that don't talk to each other or don't link together. So in this simple example, we're pulling information from these devices and feeding it into the IoT Hub. So let's now switch to the live demonstration. I've now switched to a live website where users will log in a secure and controlled environment, where security will determine what they can see and their permissions will determine what they can do. In this environment, we see that this is part of an operational excellence suite of applications. So there may be 7 or 8 applications running together. And we can see by clicking on the springboard in the top left-hand corner that in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here, we have a line monitor that will provide real-time data that might feed into some of the other applications, such as, for example, assessments, audits, improvement plans, or improvement projects. We can see here from the schematic on the home page that it's similar to the scenario I've just described, where multiple devices are monitoring performance across a bottling line. This feeds into a central aggregator in the Microsoft IoT Hub, and data is then fed either real-time or on a pulsing or sampling basis into the Softools platform, and this will then feed into executive decision-making. So if I click now on the top left-hand corner and I activate the line monitor, this takes me into the first of the applications. And this application is where we'll see the data coming in. Now at this point, we see that it hasn't been turned on, so we see no data here. So the first thing we need to do is to link Softools up to the IoT Hub. You'll see I've now moved to my desktop, and we have 2 applications here to simulate the IoT Hub operation. The first is the IoT Hub from the device. By clicking on this, we're now simulating live devices feeding information into the Microsoft IoT Hub. We can see on the left-hand side of the screen here that as information comes in, we can see what that information is. And because this is a simulation, we're taking information every few seconds from various production lines that might be up and down our plants. We can see the first one here, we're simulating a Coca-Cola production line, and it's pulling information about the number of minutes of uptime, perhaps the maximum line capacity and the current throughput. So we can now see that devices are feeding information in real time to the IoT Hub. So the second thing we need to do then is to connect Softools up using the published APIs to the IoT Hub. To do this, I click on my second simulator here. This is now setting up that IoT feed directly into the Softools platform. So on the left-hand side, we have data coming from devices into the IoT Hub. And on the right-hand side now, we can see that as data comes in, it will then be fed automatically through to the Softools environment. So now I'll switch back to our live platform. Back on the line monitor application, we can now see at the bottom of the screen here that records and information is now starting to feed into the system in real time. And if I refresh the screen here, either manually or automatically, we can see the information coming in. We can see here, for example, that we have a number of lines which are in operation. And across those lines, we're selectively pulling information in around the throughput, around the uptime in terms of minutes online, but also we can see information around efficiency, and we can compare that with perhaps upper and lower control limits. We can see, for example, at a glance, that Fanta, in this example, at a throughput of 813 and with an efficiency rating of 65 is below the expectation. And we can see that this has automatically been set to status red. By clicking on that particular record, I can drill down into the underlying information. And we can see here how not only we're pulling raw data in from the IoT Hub, but we're then using that information intelligently to show information in a graphical format, to apply expressions and workflow. So, for example, if the throughput or the efficiency is less than a certain value, in this case an amber or a red trigger, then it will automatically set the status for this particular data feed. Now, this could be done on a minute-by-minute basis, or it could be on an hour-by-hour basis, or it could be at the end of the day or at the end of the week. And the same source data in the IoT Hub can be used to feed 4 different applications, perhaps tracking at different time periods. We can also automatically use workflow to set up associated RAID registers. So a RAID register would be a risk register and integrated issues log. And that information could be fed straight through to the engineering team. So perhaps the head of engineering for that particular line would receive a Slack message or a text message letting them know that there's a problem on that line, or that there's a certain amount of downtime, or which machine was causing the problem. But at the same time, if it's a mission critical line, then a message could be sent to the production manager or even to the plant manager, just letting them know of a particular problem and also letting them know who's dealing with it. So if I now go back to my homepage, I can see now we have another 23 records, or 23 pieces of data have been added. So we can see the profile is now starting to build up over time. As well as seeing the individual information feeds coming in here, we can then also represent this data in a more graphical format. So now we can start to see information coming in on a systematic basis. We can start to see run charts, control charts, and we can compare this with upper and lower control limits. We can use the filter in the top right-hand corner of the pane to look at a specific line, or a specific area, or a specific time period, or even a specific operator. And we can also see how the line control can show us the flow over time. And we can see here, for example, at 3:18, we had a specific problem. And that allows teams to go in and investigate what happened at that particular time that might have caused that problem. And that item might, in fact, have triggered an alert to the engineering manager or even to the production line manager. So in brief, that's how the IoT Suite works. It's a standard Softools platform which allows zero-code web applications to be built quickly, but then it allows us to link in real-time using our APIs into an IoT Hub. In this case, we showed the Microsoft IoT Hub, which in turn is pulling information from different data sources, directly from machines or devices which have been added to machines to provide that real-time data. Once the data has come into Softools on a sampling basis, then we can use that information to feed multiple applications. So that can not only give us a standard red, amber, green indicator or performance dashboard, but it can also be used to feed into improvement initiatives or a need for engineering to come and do root cause analysis. So the discussion has moved from the generation of real-time data, which is now a commodity, into the question, which is how are we going to use that information to drive competitive advantage? And that must be by providing insights and information directly to the key decision makers up and down the business. Finally, let me switch back to the presentation just to finish off with a couple of slides. On this slide here, we can see the IoT demonstration showed us pulling information from IoT hubs. That led to the generation of red, amber, green registers of real-time data coming in, which can then be converted into charts, which allow data to be presented in a format that help managers and users to understand what's going on. Step 2, analysis, allows us to look at that data and use expressions and workflow to apply upper and lower control limits. It also allows us to then trigger action by engineers to analyze what the cause of a particular problem, so to allow root cause analysis. But it also feeds into the bottom right-hand corner here, which is action by the executive decision makers in order to make key decisions and to make them faster or in real time. Now, in terms of what's next, increasingly we're now seeing the discussion is moving from looking at historic data via the IoT Hub to then use some of the emerging new capabilities in Microsoft Azure and other leading software providers, which enable true machine learning, artificial intelligence, and increasing use of knowledge bots. For example, here, the use of correlation and regression analysis will allow us not only to look at historic data to predict the point in time in the future when a line or a facility or perhaps another measure such as the consumption of electricity will breach the upper or lower control limits, and therefore allow us to implement predictive maintenance in a much more effective and efficient manner. Thank you for taking the time to review this video. If you'd like more information, please do get in touch. andy.bruce@softtools.net.